Thanks for tuning in to If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo podcast on the Overreaction Sports Network powered by Believe. And now your hosts, former Director of Football Administration for the Buffalo Bills, Don Purdy, and former Coaching Assistant for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Cormier.
Always gets you ready to go. Welcome to If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo. Don, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and we are joined by Derrick Burroughs and the AD of Lane College right now. And when I listen to that intro, I always wonder, like, how many people were actually part of that. And I think about when Van Miller is calling, the Bills have won it, the Bills have won it. That was in 88, late in November, a rainy night, a lousy, well, you know, for a football fanatic, 9-6 game. Derrick Burroughs was part of that, holding the Jets to no touchdowns.
Yeah. And you know what? Since you brought it up, I was the guy that lodged the ball from Freeman McNeil.
Oh, nice.
I called the fumble from Freeman McNeil.
That's right.
Brought that to my attention.
The UCLA running back. Yeah, that was a defensive battle, and you were so integral in it. So
Derrick, real quick, did you think that the fans were going to storm the field?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't even think about it, but you put a smile on my face because I hadn't heard that in years. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a nasty late November rainy, like it could have been snowing or raining, but it was raining, which is worse. And again, 9-6. Fred Smerlis blocked the kick, and here we are. So. Derrick, thank you so much for joining us. We've had a lot of back and forth, but for Bills fans, this is a big deal. Derrick was a 5-year starter for the team, part of, I believe, the greatest draft in Bills history. I was an intern in 88. I was a part-time guy in the ticket office in 89, trying to eventually find my way into the organization. Derrick was on the all-rookie team, and he is the author of a new book, Erased from History, which we're also going to really get into. Josh and I are going to, as you heard in the intro, Derrick, that we were part of the organization for a long time. And the league is, you're there when they need you, and so we will come back to that, right?
About that one.
Derrick, Don's nice. Don's nicer than I am. We both were unceremoniously fired from the NFL, Derrick. So as soon as Don told me you were coming on, as soon as Don told me you were coming on, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna enjoy talking to Derrick.
Hey, listen, all of us got something in common there.
That's exactly right. So maybe Derrick, why don't you just, kind of lay out for people, younger Bills fans, people who are listening to our podcast, a lot of them are old school. They'll definitely remember you. Why don't you just kind of lay out, your football journey with the Bills, and just talk to people about what you want to let them know.
Yeah, from Memphis as a first round pick.
Well, the first thing is, I wish I could have played longer. But God has other plans for us. But I really loved the camaraderie of, I was looking at all those jerseys behind you, and those were all my best friends, and kind of brought back memories. I don't miss the cars or the money. I miss the camaraderie of having those guys around. So it just, just watching, just looking at all those jerseys kind of, made me remember. Cornelius was my road roommate.
Was he?
And yeah. And, Andre and I went at it every single day, and then of course, Bruce was, I was in Bruce's wedding. So.
Oh my gosh. So this is so good.
Yeah.
When we look at that draft again, a 5-year starter, and your career will of course get into how your career ended, but
Yeah.
I remember we talked to Darryl Talley, whose jersey isn't here. If I could have had it, I would, but he was talking about the Pete Metzelaars. Josh, help me out here. We talked to Pete Metzelaars and Derrick and Darryl Talley. Pete Metzelaars came from Seattle and basically was told at Seattle, if you don't play well, we're sending you to Buffalo, which is like Siberia.
Yeah, Buffalo was the punishment right before you guys got there. Like you and Bruce and Andre and then Jim. Maybe just like kind of explain to people what'd you think getting drafted by Buffalo? It was like, oh my God, no. Like, what were you thinking?
No, I thought it was Siberia too. So no, I'm from Alabama, guys. So I didn't think it was Siberia, but I thought it was better than Green Bay. So
okay.
So I said, you can send me anywhere except Green Bay. So but Buffalo did have that Siberian stigma to it for a long time. Guys was afraid. I didn't want to go to Buffalo, and it was kind of a punishment to a lot of guys. If you step out of line, we're gonna send you to Buffalo. So I remember all that. You brought back. You're bringing back memories every conversation we have. But
you're strengthening a theme there. So then, though, as far as the team goes, Darryl Talley was telling us that. So Cornelius came Halloween in '87,
right.
And at the end of the '87 season, the team finally made it to like around 500, one game away from a playoff spot. And he said that he and Cornelius were at the lockers, and Cornelius said, "What do you think? Where are we at?" And Darryl said to him, "We're there. This is the turning point. We have the foundation here to be the team that's gonna be ready to go." And you were right in the heart of that.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, Cornelius Bennett was really the turning point when we got in 1987. I think we went 8-7 or something like that. But I remember us, maybe winning 2 games our first year and a couple of games our second year. But you can see we were getting better and better every year, and getting Cornelius kept Bruce from getting double teamed all the time. And then we got Nate Odoms in with Cornelius, and that was the other corner to play on the other side of me. And the pieces just kind of started coming together, Yeah. And just as the pieces came together, it's like I got hurt, and that makes me feel so sad.
Yeah.
I remember, is it Rant and Ron? I think he has a show in Buffalo, and he caught me off guard one time, and he asked me some question, and before I knew it, man, I was just pouring in tears.
I saw it, Derrick. I don't want to do that to you.
Oh hell no, I'm not going to do that this time.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a couple of questions, Derrick. As a kid growing up in Buffalo, so I'm 48 years old. My 4 high school years were the 4 Super Bowl years. I remember, your name. I remember the Blizzard defense of 1988. We were just looking up the stats in the AFC Championship game against Cincinnati, and man, the offense couldn't move the ball, but you guys kept the team, in the game the entire time. So two questions. One, did you guys know 88 and then obviously the famous 89 bickering Bills season? Did you guys know it was Super Bowl or bust by that point? And then secondly, did you always step on the field? Did you ever worry about getting hurt? Like, was that in the back of your mind every game or no?
No, not for me. I never thought about it, but it's ironic you asked me that. But because the play before I actually got hurt, Cornelius Bennett said, "Bro, you got to keep your head up. You keep ducking your head when you tackle. Keep your head up. You're gonna get hurt." So I just said, "Come on, Cornelius. Let's play." And like the next play, I ducked my head and I got hurt. But no, we saw ourselves getting better, and that, I just hate that I wasn't around to, I went through the hard times or the bad times. I really hate that I didn't get a chance to experience those good times, with the Bills.
Yeah, you built that. You built the team getting to that point, and this is probably a microcosm that'll bring this into full focus. And we had Don Beebe on the program, and so he comes into the team in '89, and of course you had to cover him in practice. He had a hilarious story about Nate Odoms on the first day of minicamp, saying you can't get past me, and he couldn't. He was really frustrated to the point where he had to resort to karate in the off season. But Don told us that he was benched for the first week or the second week, and then Jim Kelly made a plea to like, hey, let's activate this guy. And he had his breaking out party against Houston with a 65-yard bomb or something. And the game is so cruel because that was his coming out party, and that was the game that you got hurt. And hurt is an understatement. And Derrick, I could tell you, I was with the team in 2007. I was eventually in a position where I was handling workers' compensation. Opening day, Kevin Everett had an injury that as soon as it happened, I had two thoughts. One was, as the person that handles workers' comp, this is going to be something extraordinary. The second was, the only time I ever saw this happen, I immediately had a flashback to Derrick Burroughs. And I was not in Houston in '89. I was not in a position that I would have been traveling with the team, but I was trying to advance, and I just remember it so well. And it was heartbreaking to think back to that.
Yeah. Well, it was more than just heartbreaking for me. I went through a lot of mental hurt and anguish, and I even sought help to deal with that. I don't know if I gave it a real chance to work, but for a long time, man, I used to wake up. I used to wake up and grab my keys, and I'm getting ready to go to practice. And it's 3 years ago. I mean, it's 3 years after I've retired. You know what I mean?
Habitual. Just
so
what you grew up with. Playing football your whole life.
Yeah. So, when I grabbed my keys going to practice, and I retired 3 years ago, I knew I needed to get some help.
Good on you. Good on you for getting the help. And Derrick, like we talked about before we started, Don and I and the people who've listened to the show before, we never stepped foot in between the lines, like you guys did. But, he was with the Bills for 30 years and I was there for 5 as a kid growing up in Buffalo and had my dream job. And we both got unceremoniously dumped from the NFL. And I've tried to explain it to people over the years, and I'm not in any way comparing my situation to yours, but the sense of loss and the sense of like downright grief that I had, and I don't use that word lightly, for losing what was my dream job and what I saw the rest of my life becoming. It took me darn near 10, 15 years. So I can only imagine if, I rose to the level you were at, or Don was the director of football administration. Part of our healing, quite frankly, Don and I, was doing this podcast together and talking about our memories and our stories. So, I think people just see you as a name on the back of a jersey or a fantasy football player nowadays, and don't consider Derrick Burroughs the person. Once you get hurt, you're kind of out of sight, out of mind. What did that feel like? You say 3 years later, even 5, 10 years later, and the team is great. The team's going to the Super Bowl. Worst case scenario, right?
Well, if you can remember, the year I got hurt, we went to the Super Bowl, and then we went to Super Bowl 3 more years.
Right.
And then I remember the year I got hurt, I had a Super Bowl party at home, and I invited some friends over, and they introduced the defense, and they introduced Kirby Jackson as the starting left corner. And I bust out in tears again. It's been so hard for me to hold my emotions when I talk about this. You know, and that's why I said if I got on the show, I wasn't gonna do the rat and Ron thing again. But it's so emotional to talk about it because I left so much. I felt like I left so much there.
Yeah.
And I hadn't accomplished everything I wanted to do. And I wish I had a mulligan all the time. I mean, even today, I still wish I had one.
Derrick, there's no part of me that for as long as my front office career was, for me to say, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. I can't, but I a couple things, I feel like, as Josh said, we both got let go, and we finally, in our own timetables, came back to supporting the team in a way that feels sure. But I remember in '89, and it was after your injury, and I was just hoping and praying that I would, find a way to have the NFL be part of my career. It was like a lifelong dream, and I was leaving the stadium. It was probably 6:00 at night in October or November. It was kind of dark, and I was pulling onto 219 North and getting on there. I was in the right lane, and the car pulled up past me in the left lane. It was you, and you were recognizable, your profile or whatever. And I remember looking at you thinking, oh man, this team has so much going on, and Derrick, is going into not only rehab, like rehab is like, a sprained MCL or, a shoulder. You were in a totally different territory, and thinking, who knows? Derrick doesn't know. The trainers or doctors don't know, what could possibly be in his future. And it made me think, my aspirations for being part of the organization seem minimal compared to watching you drive past me, wondering what it was for you. And man,
can I tell you something, man? I've been lost, those couple of years, man, I was so lost and had no idea what I was doing or where I was going and what I wanted to do next. But, I could have handled all of it, Don. I could have handled all of it if I would have got a little bit more sympathy from the team.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to believe what I'm getting ready to say, but since I got hurt, I've never heard from the Bills. I've never heard from a coach. I've never heard from the GM. I've never heard anybody that call me and say, hey man, how you doing? How's your neck? As a matter of fact, some years ago after the first Super Bowl, I ran into an old teammate, and I saw him with the AFC Championship ring on him. So I said, when did they give out the rings? I said, I didn't get a ring. He said, you didn't get a ring. So I'm getting ready to go into a tailspin because I feel like they forgot about me again. So I call and get Marv on the phone. And I said, Marv, I know I was a part of the team. I got hurt. I was still a part of the team. What happened to my ring? And he said to me, I guess we forgot.
It's tough.
And I wrote that in my book. I wrote it in my book, and I said, Marv have no idea how much he hurt me. Still, probably today, he has no idea how much I hurt from it today.
I don't think he would.
And I know, I know he wouldn't. I know he wouldn't.
Right.
But even sitting here with you guys today, and I'm not going to do a rant and Ron thing. I'm not going to do that. But they have no idea how much that hurt me to say you forgot me when I almost died on the field.
Do you think, Derrick, some of that is a product of like when it happened? I feel like nowadays.
Listen. I don't want to sound like I don't want to sound mad or anything. I can't sit here and tell you I'm not hurt.
Sure.
But I don't want to sound like a gripey old Bill or any, I don't want to come off that way.
No, you don't. You don't at all. But listen. You're sitting here with two people who, I mean, I spent an entire 45 minutes on a stream being upset about being let go from the NFL 23 years ago.
Yeah.
So it took, I mean, no lie, it took me a good 10 or 15 years to be okay with it and to be able to watch the team.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, living here in Buffalo, I rooted against them every single week. I couldn't tolerate the idea of them being good.
Yeah.
I couldn't. The only thing that kind of has gotten me back to neutral is the fact that I've got a wife who loves the team and twin boys that are 11, that I didn't want to be, grouchy old dad who hates the football team. So, I totally hear you. I guess like what I'm asking you is it feels like you were like in back in that era, like 30, 35, 40 years ago, like the NFL just didn't treat players the way they do now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah. When DeMar Hamlin got hurt, my phone just started blowing up, and I sat there crying and cause I was, and then I started praying for him, but then I think I was praying for me too, because it was almost like I was reliving me getting hurt all back over again through him. And I am, I can't believe that I shedded that much tears that night. But I think it was actually for the both of us. I need to heal. I don't know if I've really healed from it yet, bro. I really don't.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. And, I guess, what I could tell you, Derrick, as having been part of the team, and I had a slow growth in the front office, was I'm thinking back to what your conversation with Marv and that he forgot. I truly believe, I know that if there was a list of players that was put in front of him on a piece of paper like this, like, okay, these are the guys that were on the team who should have, he would have, there's no question.
I believe that.
Yes. That never would have gotten to him. I could tell you the front office structure was such that they did not want to burden the head coach with anything other than figuring out how your roster can win games. And, it's frustrating to hear, but I can't wait to read your book. And we've had conversations in the past week, and I've got the gist of it, but obviously with this conversation, I can't wait to dig in more and keep the conversation going. But I know Marv would have signed off on that immediately if it was put in front of him. The bureaucracy is frustrating to watch, like what it takes to get a decision made in the front office of the NFL. And they don't want to bother head coaches with anything that, deviates from how does this roster win games. Josh knows that, we work with Wade Phillips, and, can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah. No, let me go ahead.
Don,
go ahead.
Let me just say it right quick. Don, I have no doubt. I agree with you 100%. That didn't ease the pain any less.
No, I don't blame you. Yeah.
Do you, Derrick, would you, if you got an invite, would you want to come back to Buffalo? No. I mean, as far as what, to promote my book, yeah, I do that. Sure. Hey, I don't blame you there, man. Good for you.
But no, no.
I got you.
No.
Did you ever think about coming back here even on your own, just to see if you could get any closure from it yourself?
You know what? I can't sit here and say I haven't thought about it. And I realize whenever I'm on, on a podcast or something with somebody from Buffalo, it's a little bit different than somebody from somewhere else, because, I'm looking at all my friends' jerseys and, all these memories you guys are talking about, so this becomes very personal to me. But, I don't want to keep sounding like an angry Derrick Burroughs.
You're not angry at all.
Well, then go ahead. No, I was going to ask you.
I just don't want to sound like an angry old athlete that's still mad.
No. Well, man, you've been successful since, right? And that's kind of where I wanted to go here, is that you you still have a career in football, and you've been a head coach now. You've been an AD. Like, maybe tell people, how you were able to get over, the pain of it, as best as you could, and you're still a part of football, which I admire the heck out of you for. Honestly, the fact that you still have your career in football after what happened to you, quite frankly, I think it's one of the most impressive things that I've heard on this podcast.
Agreed.
Well, I get a chance to work with inner city kids, first generation college students, kids that grew up just like me. And it's been very fulfilling for me, to be totally honest with you. I remember one game we had an excessive amount of penalties. I wrote it in my book. We had an excessive amount of penalties one game, and I just could not get them to understand how important having discipline is with a football team, right? So when they thought they was going to watch their opponents, I pulled out the 1989 old Buffalo Bills versus Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, no.
And I let them watch that film. And I said, well, first of all, now you see the importance of having discipline. And two, this is the way you can get barred from a team for the rest of your life.
Oh, Derrick. So what are you saying about, I'm going to read the book. I can't wait to, but what are you saying about that penalty that was called on you in the 88 season, 89 championship game?
Yeah, listen, I put it all. I told it all.
All right.
I lost my temper. I shouldn't have lost my temper. But to me, in my opinion, it had zero to do with us losing this game.
Right.
But I took the brunt of it. I mean, babies, children, women, Bills fans.
Oh,
I mean, so very deserving. I should not have lost my temper.
Well, fair enough. But Josh, before this interview, was just looking up stats of that game. And what were Jim Kelly's stats, Josh?
Oh, God. Jim Kelly was 14 of 30 for 139 yards and 3 picks.
I mean, we only
three
had
picks, Derrick.
I can tell you, we only had one first down the whole freaking second half.
Yeah, we had 10 first downs in the game. You're not gonna win an NFL game. 10 first downs they had total. Derrick, we weren't winning that game. If that penalty never happened, we weren't winning that game anyways.
But listen, and then we scored one touchdown.
Yeah, right.
We scored one touchdown, and then so I remember Big Joe Devlin and Errol Tucker back in the day. So we go in the locker room, and Errol and Joe get into it. Joe Devlin is the biggest guy on the team. Why would you get in it with Joe? So I'm trying to get in the way of Joe hurting Errol. I mean, because I know he's getting ready to throw him across the room. And then the media walks in and it says, well, me and Joe had a fight because of the penalty. And that was just so far from the truth. And I didn't try to explain it to anybody. So I just let them think what they wanted to think. And so, yeah, I mean, I took the brunt of all of that. And I thought it was so unfair, that I had to take the brunt of that. But you know what? That's the way it goes sometimes, man. I mean, I thought it was very unfair to me.
Yeah, no, I admire the fact that we even brought it up. I wasn't going to bring it up, but
yeah, no, everything is fair.
But you had obviously a perspective. Yeah, what happened in the locker room, and we've talked about the year that you didn't play, the first year. The Bills lost a playoff game in Cleveland where, it's a point of contention whether Ronnie Harmon dropped the ball in the end zone or he didn't. And unfortunately, you were watching that game, recovering from your injury. And Darryl Talley, a guy that I'm sure sticks up for every defensive player on the team, said, that was not a drop. But it's just so ingrained to hear the details that you remember it. Again, I can't wait to read the book and how every little detail is just so part of your fabric. And Josh is good at bringing that up.
Don, I remember it because it has never left.
Yeah.
You don't believe this, man. I promise you. When I wrote my book and I posted it online, a Bills fan came on my Facebook page and said, "So what happened in 1989 playoff game. So,
Ah.
I'm like, whoa, man, come on, Jesus, it's been 30, 40 years. Give me a break.
You know, that's part of what I've tried to, help maybe people who listen to our show who are a casual fan, and again, they see a name on the back of a jersey and a helmet. Like you guys are people, and I learned that when I was able to be in the NFL and on the sideline, growing up as just a fan and then becoming a part of an organization, and then getting to know players like you, obviously 10 years later, but just the vitriol and the blame that goes around to guys. Most people that are assigning that blame don't understand the game. They certainly don't understand what it takes to play the game. Like I was in absolute awe of any player who stepped through the lines because it's something I could have never, ever done. But I just like in social media obviously makes it worse now. But for somebody like you to have to deal with some idiot 35 years later, who probably wasn't even 35 years old, probably not even alive at the point in time. It's all silly, right? And you're right, it does come with the territory, but it's just really an unfortunate part of football that, scapegoating and all of that is just, I guess it's just been around forever, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, at my age now, I'm much more equipped to handle that kind of stuff and make a joke out of it and laugh about it. In my 20s when it happened, I probably wasn't ready for that. But the older we get, the more we move differently, the more we think differently, man. So
yeah.
I don't even, he didn't even look old enough to even remember me, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Well,
we certainly do, Derrick. And when the quarterback goes 14 to 30 for 130 yards and 3 picks, you ain't winning that game anyways. I'm sorry. Like we weren't winning that game. We got totally dominated. What's up? Can you maybe share with somebody, some of our listeners, what's a memory of those like 85, 86, 87, 88 teams that people wouldn't know that that stick with you in a positive light before we let you know?
Add on to that, you come in from Memphis and you're all rookie team right away. But who is it that when you came into the NFL and you looked across the sideline or across the line of scrimmage, you were like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm playing against that guy?
I never had that kind of awe about anyone.
Okay.
But I think, if I had to say someone, it was probably Earl Campbell, because I was trying to figure out how the hell I was going to hit him. You know what I mean? I'm 178, and I'm trying to figure out, this guy IR written all over it, bro. So I mean, so
was he with the Saints by then?
No, he was with Houston back then.
Still with the Oilers.
Yeah,
okay.
So if I was, at awe with anybody, I was trying to figure out how was I going to hit Earl Campbell and Otis Anderson. But I tell you what, the guy that if I could say I was at awe with, I was at awe with Darryl Talley, more than I was with Earl Campbell or anyone. Let me tell you why. Darryl and I just absolutely loved Darryl Talley's. I loved being his teammate. I would break the huddle every single play and see if I'm on the strong side or the weak side. And I know if Darryl's on the strong side with me, he's gonna string everything out to the sideline. He ain't nothing cutting up. Sometimes Bennett would jump around. Bennett was a lot more athletic, so Cornelius would jump around the block and come back. But if you jump around the block and open the gap, that's you and the running back. So I think if there was any person, I would say Darryl Talley. Right. I loved playing with Darryl, and I loved. Bruce was more of the friend, but Darryl was more the warrior,
the general.
Yeah. He played reckless. He played he was the kind of teammate I loved playing with. Like guys said, they loved playing with Ray Lewis. I loved playing with, those Miami guys. Darryl Talley was my he was the guy that I just loved playing with.
Man,
that 1988 defense you guys had.
Yeah.
I mean, it carried the team to the AFC Championship game. I remember that, and it was incredible, winning the game 9-6 to win the division.
Right.
Do you have a favorite play of your own during your career?
Favorite play, I think my rookie year, my first interception as an NFL player, Drew Brees in Foxborough, Massachusetts. I got an interception my rookie year, and I damn near ran out of the stadium. I didn't know you were supposed to act like you had been there before, but that was probably the most memorable play I've ever had.
Yeah.
First career interception.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's one that'll stick with you forever, right? That's the I can play in the NFL. That's some really good stuff. Derrick, can you tell everybody the name of your book, where they can pick it up, and if they are interested, what they're going to find in there?
The name of my book is called, I know you guys can't see it, but it's called Erased from History.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pick it up on Amazon. And it chronicles kind of my life, my ups and my downs, my struggles. And it chronicles how a lot of things in my life just seem to have been totally erased. Not just the Buffalo Bills erasing me. Even in my high school, I'm the highest drafted player ever out of my high school, but yet my name appears nowhere in my high school. I never graduated. I never walked across I never celebrated my high school graduation. I never celebrated my college graduation. It just seems like, one thing happened to you, you say, it may be a coincidence, possibly two, but, so many things just seem like it's more than just a coincidence for some reason.
Yeah. I got to say, Derrick, my grandfather, one of the wisest men I ever had the privilege of knowing, but he always said, God has a perfect calendar. We can't understand it. And I've experienced some things personally in my life over the past few years that I thought should have happened 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and they didn't. And why? And they happened over the past couple of years. And when I look back at them happening, it all made sense. And I've been trying to get some former Bills players on here who didn't experience anything nearly as traumatic as what you experienced with your injury. And they just weren't ready to kind of get back in the public eye in any way. And, Josh and I are a small to medium broadcast here. And we have a loyal following that's going to love to hear this program. But again, back to my grandfather's words, for whatever timing is happening for you to decide to share your story and your book, as far as my grandfather goes, it's God's perfect calendar and it's the right time. and enjoy the dividends of what you've put into it.
And I want everyone to know that, by no means this is a Buffalo Bills bashing book. This is not, it's only one chapter. It's 12 chapters. And it's one chapter that I talked about NFL growing. It's called NFL Growing Pains. But it just chronicles a whole lot of things about my life, and even it chronicles, about my family and how poor we grew up in Mobile, Alabama. But so I just want everybody to know this is not a book about bashing the Buffalo Bills or anything like that.
No, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Do you still watch the team, Derrick?
No.
I don't blame you.
I haven't watched an NFL game in 25, 30 years.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. I can understand. And I feel like Don and I are probably in a unique position for most people that listen to our show, that you can understand that the pain is real. And I call it a grief journey, and I'm only kind of semi-joking about it. Like it right. You have a new fan in me here, and I seriously admire your perseverance and the fact that you chose to stay with football, even not the NFL, and have helped so many young men. I admire the heck out of it. I couldn't have anything to do with football until I just coached my boys' flag football team for the first time this year. So I couldn't do it. So you've got a lot of, I'm sure you got a lot of fans up here in Buffalo. I know you're going to have more fans after our show, airs on Friday. Please pick up Derrick's book, Erased from History, on Amazon. And, Derrick, we really appreciate you coming on here. I really respect the heck out of you for doing this.
Yes, thank you.
Listen, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come on your show and chop it up a little bit, man. And, again, just looking at you guys wearing these jerseys and looking at all those jerseys behind Don. I talked to Andre. Andre and I, we talk all the time.
Good.
Talley and I, we talk all the time. And
good.
So I still keep in contact with those guys, man. And you kind of took me back down memory lane again. So I appreciate it. And,
well, thanks for filling in so much.
Absolutely. Erased from History on Amazon. And Don, what's the name of your book for the books, the book aficionados too?
Thunder Snow of Buffalo. Yeah, it's a storm you would not want to have been here for in 2006, Derrick.
Derrick, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.